Hello and welcome to Chapter 5, Consciousness. Hopefully you enjoyed this chapter because it is a very interesting one, so we're going to just dive right in. All right, so this is a link that'll take you to a website that gives a lot of information on consciousness. As you know, each chapter starts off with a vignette. So this is an introduction to consciousness. And this involves a doctor talking about different things that are going on with surgery in the brains and consciousness, if you are interested in that. As you know, each chapter starts off with kind of the overarching definition of the chapter, and this one being consciousness. We are looking at your state of awareness of yourself, of your thoughts, and your environment. So this is looking at kind of the whole being of yourself. So this encompasses inside, really inside, and all of your outside surroundings. And all of these things can be altered through drugs, which are used to ease pain and anxiety. They run on a spectrum, so there are always varying levels of consciousness. And what consciousness tells us is that even when you're asleep, you can still be aware because your brain is always active even when you are in your sleep state. All right, so I've embedded a few videos in here for your watching pleasure, and I hope you like them because these will give you deeper understandings of different levels of consciousness. So let's start off with the first video. Who Done It, which maybe some of you have seen this, but go ahead and make sure that you pay attention to what's going on in the video.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
But how did you know?
Madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
Sorry, madam.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
Action.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord
Pay attention
Smythe,
to every
who,
change.
at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
It's kind of an advertisement for cyclists being aware. So when you're paying attention to, little details, you kind of forget, or not forget, you don't pay attention to all of the outside stuff. So you can go back, if you just Google or go on YouTube search and look up Who Done It, you can just go and pause and see all the changes. All right, this next one on selective attention is a real popular one, so maybe a lot of you have already seen it, but if not, go ahead and focus on the directions of what they tell you to do.
We just had the most amazing family vacation.
This is so exciting!
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla? This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris and
Okay. So every time I show that video, even if it's just one or two people, there's always somebody that it's like, what gorilla? And again, that is because you're selectively paying attention to what the directions ask you to. And so people usually say, I did not see a gorilla, go back. And then they think it's a trick, but this is part of your conscious awareness. Inattentional blindness is another video I'm going to show you. Again, you want to pay attention to what is going on with what they're asking you. Again, looking at inattentional blindness and selective attention, they very much kind of intermingle with each other.
It's Aspen Dental's Everyday Smiles event, where new patients get a full exam and set of x-rays with no obligation.
Close onto that nice and tight. Here we go. Watch.
Watch this next sequence carefully. At the end, I'll ask you a question about what you've seen.
Hi, I'm Magic Singh, and today we're in Portobello Road, and I'm going to show you guys a classic in magic, using matches. And today to help me out is Mark. Mark, tell you what, place your hand up for me nice and flat. Now, I promise this won't hurt, all right? So here's the idea. Let's just light this up. And if you close onto that nice and tight, here we go. Watch this.
Keep watching.
I don't know if you felt that or not. I'll tell you what, have a look inside. Open it up. See how the match is actually returned into the book, and it's still burnt. Okay, you're not impressed. All right, it was my first trick ever. But here's the idea. Just place that back in your hand, close it tight, and turn it face down again if you can. Now we're going to use one more thing, and we're going to use a magician's best friend, playing cards. Now the idea is really simple. You're going to choose one, so take anyone you like. Perfect. Have a look for yourself, and do me a favor, show the camera as well if you can. Brilliant. And you know what? Place it back face up on the deck. Now, it doesn't matter if I see what the card is, because we're going to do something completely different. Just watch this. Here we go. I'll do it slowly. Watch the king. I don't know if you felt that or not. Tell you what, have a look inside. Open it up. Oh. Check it out.
It's the King of Diamonds. It's my card.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Did you watch the trick closely? This is a famous illusion called inattention blindness. This illusion is not about the magic. While watching the routine, you may or may not have noticed the changes taking place. The question is, how many changes did you see? Was there 1? Were there 3? Or were there 5? The answer is there were 3 changes. The first change was the red hanky to a green one. The second was his shirt swapping to a t-shirt. The last was his assistant becoming a completely different person. How many did you see? So why is it that you didn't see these big changes? And the reason is that the brain receives so much information on its eyes that you can't see everything simultaneously. So instead it picks and chooses according to what it thinks is important. If you change something that it doesn't think is important, you just literally don't see it.
And that's, not just visually, but that's even auditory as well. We'll get to that with the cocktail party effect. Okay, now let's look at change blindness. This is changes in the environment.
Most of us think we're pretty observant, but with a bit of mind control, I wanted to see if I could make these people take even the most obvious things for granted. Excuse me, do you know how to get to Trinity Church from here? Yeah.
You see that church down there?
Yep, straight through there.
And then you keep going down.
Sorry, which way?
You see that church is down there?
Yeah.
You stay on that, which is, I believe, Broadway. And then you walk down 2 or 3 blocks, and Trinity Church is on the right hand side. You're walking in that direction.
Excuse me, you don't know where Trinity Church is, do you?
Might be Wall Street and Broadway.
Okay. Well, we're down here somewhere, aren't we?
Yeah, you see Trinity Church.
Oops, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. Inside the Trinity Church, right there. Yeah. If you keep going that way, you hit Broadway, then you go a couple of blocks. Yeah. Thanks very much.
That seemed almost too easy, so later on I see how far I can take it.
Excuse me, do you know where Trinity Church is?
It's in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last time I switched with someone who looked a little bit like me, but where's the fun in that?
Okay, thank you.
You know who best direct you? The other side. You see where that lady's standing?
Sure.
That's the pool. No, the lady in the gray.
The other side.
Yeah, the other side of the pool.
But you say you don't know where it is?
Exactly what street, no, but it's in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah, okay?
Excuse me. Do you know where Trinity Church is from here?
Yeah, fine. Come on, I'll take you. Are you gonna walk now?
I'm gonna catch some other people.
Sorry, guys. Okay, listen, once you go on Broadway,
Yes.
remember the numbers are going... I could have sworn it was another guy. Once you hit the Broadway, you're going down.
Yes.
Walk up straight that way and just walk straight down. You're
Brilliant.
gonna see it. It's really brown.
That's brilliant. Thanks for your help.
All right, fine. Don't worry about it.
Excuse me. Do you know where Trinity Church is? Ah, great. Well, where are we on here? We sort of there.
Right here.
Thank you.
Go on. We are Brooklyn Bridge. You want to cross over there, go down Broadway, and you'll be right there. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, mate. Do you know this area? Do you know the area? Do you know Piccadilly Circus?
Oh, you go the free.
So through there?
Yeah, through there, it's through Leicester Square.
Oh, sorry, go on for me.
Keep going this way.
This way?
Get to Piccadilly Circus.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, careful of the car. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Excuse me, are you familiar with this area? No. No? Okay, all right.
What are you trying to look at?
Piccadilly Circus?
Piccadilly Circus. Coming
Yeah.
back from here. Piccadilly Circus is
Oh,
right
sorry.
here.
Hang on, sorry. Sorry, which?
I just saw it right here.
Okay, so is that straight over?
Definitely not that way. Piccadilly Circus, I know it's that direction.
Over that way. Oh, okay, thank you. Do you know this area at all?
A little bit.
Trying to get to St Paul's from here. I'm not even quite sure where we are.
Sorry, can you just trying to work out where I'm going?
We are here.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think it's sort of down there.
I'm sure that wouldn't have worked quite as well if I was a very famous pop star. Well, it took me over 2 hours to find Francesco's keys, which was disappointing. But I did go to Venice for free, and I didn't fall into the canal on the way home like a twat. Sorry, can I tell how to get to St Paul's from here?
Yeah, you went back.
Ah, okay. Is it
Go
correct?
through here.
Do you know where we are on here?
And then-
Which direction do we go?
my bearings.
Is that down in this direction there?
Yeah, that right there is Old Broad Street.
It's a fact.
Crazy, huh? If you were paying attention, you would see that they changed from, male to female, from white to black. It was just, it's insane how we just focus on the stimulus that we are, I guess focused on. So our brains just can't process that visual spontaneousness. It can only pretty much attend to, the one thing at a time. So it's really interesting when you're looking at consciousness as a whole. Like I said, has to do with your surroundings within you and really within you. So it's interesting. Okay, so studying early consciousness, we look at Wilhelm Wundt, Edward Titchener, William James, and Watson and Skinner. And so these are kind of the leading psychologists when looking at consciousness. So Wilhelm Wundt, Edward Titchener, they founded psychology as a science based on looking at consciousness. But it wasn't until William James came along and kind of looked at what was called functionalism, because structuralism kind of died out, because functionalism looks at the whole stream of consciousness and looking at the day-to-day continuous events. Versus structuralism was really focused on just kind of like the mind and not so much all of the kind of 1 + 1 = 2. It was just more of the focused on the, brain area. Then you have Watson and Skinner, and they insisted that psychology should only study observable behavior. And what that means is these two were kind of super giants in behaviorism, and they believed that behaviors are only basically they have to be observed to really kind of be real, because you can't see what's going on inside of the mind. You can't see what is in your heart, even though now we can look at some people and kind of, your face says a lot. But Watson and Skinner, early theorists, were like, okay, we have to observe behavior for it to be kind of real, because then that gives us an objective measure, not subjectivity, what you cannot see. Okay, so we're going to skip on over that. And automatic processing, really what that, just kind of the example they give, highway hypnosis in the book, is, when you are driving on the highway, or when you're maybe driving and you're 5 minutes to home, and your mind just kind of goes blank and you end up home, and sometimes you get out of the car and you're like, how did I even get here? That is through automatic processing. So it's kind of like in your awareness, but out of your awareness, because your brain is kind of like a puzzle. It knows, different routes that you've taken, and you kind of sometimes just get to where you need to get without even really perceptively being aware of that. Selective attention. Another part of selective attention is what is called the cocktail party effect. And so if you ever have been, to a party or in a classroom where it's loud and you're speaking with maybe just like a friend, or you're in your own little circle talking, and there's outside noise and you're not paying attention to any of that. But then if somebody says something that triggers, maybe it is your name, or maybe it is somebody that is close to you, or somebody mentions your school, or just somebody mentions a key trigger word or event, then your attention will shift to whatever that topic was. So it's being selectively, paying attention to kind of like what your brain says is important and what's not. So what you don't feel is important is just going to go by the wayside. Okay, this I already showed you a video for this. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Waking and altered. We're going to skip this. This is more to the book. All right, so also what you want to know is your circadian rhythm. This is your 24-hour cycle. So the best, you're at your greatest early in the morning between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. And then also kind of shifting later into the afternoon between 2 and 4. So I'm going to show you in another slide, kind of like when you're at your most alert and when it's like, winding down time. All right, more just things of the brain that was covered in that chapter, but when we're looking at consciousness, kind of the areas that are responsible for that in your brain are your hypothalamus and your reticular formation. And this is what regulates your alertness and your, your sleepiness and your wakefulness. This is just a chart that shows you the major brain areas that are responsible for your patterns of sleep. Okay, so go ahead and you need to know this area that's underlined. So the National Sleep Foundation suggests removing electronics from the bedroom a minimum of 1 hour before sleep. And the reason behind that is some people think that maybe being on your phones or devices might make you sleepy and tired, but actually it messes up your cycle because of the LED blue lights in your phone. So something to do with your wavelengths. It suppresses that natural melatonin in your body. So researchers say the best way to get restful sleep is to put that device away about an hour before you're going to go to bed. We're going to skip over this. 2 parts, of sleep, jet lag, and shift work that, people have issues with. If you're traveling and you're traveling different time zones, you might experience jet lag, and that's due to a time zone change. And this can lead to like concentration or difficulty paying attention to certain things, maybe getting headaches, and then gastrointestinal distress because time zone changes can affect that physiological aspect of what's going on. And then shift work it makes up about 20% of the workforce. And that is, people are used to working like 8 to 4, 8 to 5, 9 to 5. And these are those shift workers, specifically the ones that work like midnight to 6 or midnight to 8. And so the, people that work the night shift, they have some strategies to help you adjust to that. And some of those things include maximizing your light exposure when you're at work, and then immediately away from it, close to bedtime, even though bedtime is daytime. So it's good to have like blackout shades if you could get those. Wearing sunglasses, they say, helps with your sleep because of the, darkening glasses, kind of like tricking yourself into thinking like the sun is, going down now. So wearing sunglasses before you go to bed, and then immediately upon getting home, going into a dark room so that your body is kind of set up for the tone of going to sleep. All right, we're skipping that. All right, so now we're going to go into your sleep stages. So you have all of your kind of key terms for stages of sleep. You have your beta waves, which they are your alert awake state. Then your alpha waves. Alpha waves are when you're getting into your more relaxed state. Your non-REM or your non-rapid eye movement is your non-dreaming sleep. And this occurs during the 3 stages because your dreaming occurs during your REM stage. Theta waves are brain waves that indicate the early stage of sleep. And then your delta waves, I always think of it as like delta deep. It's like your slow and your low frequency waves. All right, so this is the chart I was telling you about, your kind of rhythm of life. So let's just kind of start at midnight. So if you look at like midnight to noon to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., there's no indicators there. They're just kind of blank. So you start off like at midnight. When you look at 2 a.m., this is when you're at your deepest sleep. Now, again, this is when you're, going to bed at that kind of like, later at night between, 9 to 11. 4:30 a.m., this is when you have your lowest body temperature. And then 7 p.m. is when you have your highest body temperature. So those are your opposites. Then you have 6:45 a.m. This is when sharpest blood pressure rises. 7:30 a.m. is when your melatonin secretion stops. And if you notice, 7:30 a.m. is when it stops because it's morning. Now you're rising, you're getting ready for the day. 9 p.m. is when it starts because now that melatonin is kicking in, preparing you to go to bed. 8:30 a.m. is when the most likely time you're going to have your first bowel movement. 10 a.m. is when you're at your highest alertness. Moving to 2:30, that's when you have your best coordination. Moving into 3:30 is when you have your fastest reaction time. And 5 p.m., greatest cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength. And 6:30 is your highest blood pressure. And then, of course, 7 p.m., I said your highest body temp. Because your body has been going all day long, so it's low and then it rises and then you go back to settling again and you go over. So if you look at these, times and what's going on, you might be able to say, oh, this makes sense. Okay, know that you go through about 4 to 5 multi-stage sleep cycles and each one lasts 90 minutes. So that's approximately 7.5 hours of sleep that you get each night. Your non-REM sleep is your non-dreaming sleep. Now you could dream during this stage, but these are dreams that you don't remember. And these are kind of like residual dreams from your REM sleep. And during your REM 1, this is your lightest stage, and this is when you experience the hypnagogic hallucinations, so know that. Those are like you're falling off asleep, and it's like, jerk, and you might feel like you're falling out of bed. And then your non-REM 2, this is your sleep spindles and your K complexes. Your non-REM 3, this is when you're getting into that deep sleep, and this is the peak time for secretion of the growth hormone. And what was I going to say about the growth hormone? This is during your stage 3 sleep is when and it happens with children, obviously the most because they're the ones that are growing. But this is when you experience those growing pains, when you're actually growing, and that is during that stage. Okay, so during your paradoxical sleep, if you've ever heard of that, that is characterized by eye burst movements and brain activity that's similar to waking state, kind of looks like you're awake. You lack muscle tone, and this is where you're having those vivid, illogical dreams. That's during REM. So know that REM dreams occur during REM sleep. Know that. All right. Also, remember I already said, know that your cycle lasts 90 minutes. And kind of like the staircase you go down is you go from non-REM 1 sleep to 2 to 3, back to 2, and then through REM again. And then your REM periods get progressively longer as the night goes on. This slide is kind of fuzzy, but this is your stages again of sleep. So stage 1 all the way to REM and what is going on in each one of those stages. All right, so what time should I go to bed? This is a pretty cool little site to help you. So let me see if I go down. All right. So we want to say, let's say we go to bed at 10 o'clock. So we want to put 10 p.m. And then we're going to calculate it. So kind of ignore these and just go straight to calculate. Oh yeah, it always does that. So if it does that, then you have to hit this in again. Go 10 p.m. I think this website's a little messed up, but go to Sleepy Time. It's sleepyti.me/wake, and it'll, bring up this clock. Then you hit calculate. And so what it tells you is if you're going to go to bed at 10 p.m., the best time to wake up is 11:30 p.m., 1 a.m. Of course, it's not ideal, but I'll explain. 2:30 a.m., 4 a.m., and then, of course, it gets better. So from the gray to all the way to green, this is because you're getting the most sleep. But the key is the reason why you can get an hour and a half sleep and still wake up refreshed is why? Why is that? Yes. Okay. Good job. And the answer is because from 10 to 11:30 is an hour and a half. So you have gone through a 90-minute sleep cycle. And believe it or not, if you go through at least a 90-minute sleep cycle, now I didn't say an hour and 45 minutes, but 90 minutes, then it brings you through one cycle of sleep and you can actually wake up refreshed. So that's why it goes from the gray to the green. This is the most ideal. But if you can do this and you set a timer and you can actually sleep that hour and a half, you'll see that your body is like tricked because you're going through the cycle. So it's pretty interesting. Okay, now we're going to talk about some sleep disturbances really quick. You've got narcolepsy. That's a neurological disorder, and it's characterized by excessive daytime sleepiness, and includes lapses into sleep and napping. So you can go from kind of being awake just to boom, going right into sleep. So it's very important to, get a sleep study or get that assessed, because if you drive, those are things to take into consideration. Here, this is Harriet Tubman, and she suffered with narcolepsy, and this affects 1 in 2,500 people. We have sleep paralysis. This is your temporary paralysis. This is kind of a protective factor, and it's right before falling asleep or upon waking. Episodes usually last a few seconds, but some can go on for several minutes. And this experience happens like during dreaming, and it's to protect you from falling out of bed and other things. Your hypnagogic hallucinations those occur at the transition between sleeping and waking. This includes visual, auditory, tactile, and kinetic sensations. That previous slide was part of the, vignette from the beginning. All right, up to 65% of REM sleep behavior disorder sufferers have injured either themselves or their bedmates at one point or another. So again, it's really important if you have a sleep disorder to go to a sleep clinic, get that checked out, get that assessed. Your breathing related disorders, over to the right, that's Carrie Fisher. She was Princess Leia, and she actually died of sleep apnea and other factors. This is the most common disorder for sleeping, and it's very important to get that checked out, because you can get a CPAP machine, which they say works really only about 50% of the time. Or they also have a pillow. It's like a triangular pillow, and it's very effective, but it's designed to kind of elevate your head so that your airways are open so you can breathe when you're sleeping. Insomnia is your most prevalent disorder, and this is the inability to fall or stay asleep, results in sleepiness and often difficulties with cognitive tasks. And that's because your lack of sleep causes, disturbances in your cognitive abilities and your attention. Nearly 8% of college students meet the criteria for insomnia. And it's related to stress, anxiety, jet lag, aging, drug use, and chronic pain. All right, so you've got your sleepwalking. This occurs during your non-REM sleep cycle, usually during stage 3. 25% of children experience at least one incident, and there may be a genetic component to that. So this could be something that either mom or dad experienced when they were a child as well. But contrary to urban myth, awaking a sleepwalker will not cause sudden death or injury. But it's important not to wake up somebody that's having a night terror. So with that, I'm going to show you this short little video.
Help!
He's having a night terror.
Help me!
Parasomnia is not as unusual as we may think, and it can take many different forms. This young man suffers from what are called night terrors. These night terrors can produce disturbed and frightened behavior even under test conditions. More conventional sleepwalkers can easily perform mechanical actions they carry out repetitively every day. This woman may look as though she is awake, but in fact, she is sleepwalking. She has roused, gone into her kitchen, and raided her fridge all in her sleep. This man acts out his dreams. One patient, like him, tied himself to the bedpost each night to prevent himself from attacking his wife. Evidence from a 1997 poll of over 4,000 people in Britain found that 2 in every 100 experienced some form of night violence.
What we're doing here is really defining a third area of being. We're saying there's sleep, there's waking, and there's something that is in between that is not dreaming. This is a state in which there is awake-looking behavior, but's not fully awake.
Oh, wait. No. Don't do that.
These night
I have many tabs open right now. Oh my. Close these out. I've showed you a lot of videos. All right. All right, so your night terrors, those are non-REM. All right, so the difference between night terrors and nightmares, according to like sleep, is the night terrors occur during your non-REM sleep and your nightmares occur during your REM sleep. So night terrors affect mainly children, crying hysterically, breathing rapidly, and sweating. And you might think they're awake, but they're actually asleep. They're asleep, but they appear awake. So it is important if a child is having a night terror to just kind of get them in a calm state, maybe rub their back, rub their head, and just kind of guide them back into sleep, not, shaking them and no, step out of bed. Child has no memory of the episode the next day. So if you tell them, oh my gosh, you were freaking out, they're going to think you're lying unless you video it because they're not going to believe you. And usually children outgrow these. With nightmares, unlike the sleep terrors, nightmares can often be recalled in vivid detail. So nightmares are, different than night terrors in the fact that, no memory of night terrors, but yes, you can remember nightmares. So people who frequently experience nightmares may be more susceptible to daily stressors. All right, we're going to skip on that. The purpose of sleep. So why do we sleep? There's 3 theories. It's for restorative measures, evolutionary, and consolidation. So restorative, again, this helps us, we're growing during our sleep and it helps repair our body and our brain to kind of rest. Evolutionary theory is for adaptive and survival reasons, because when you sleep at night and because we can't see at night and there are the creatures in the night, this is the evolutionary theorist reason for why we sleep. And then lastly, to consolidate our memories and learning, because when we sleep, all of our memories of the day are consolidated into our long-term memory. All right, so some sleep myths. Drinking alcohol before bed helps you sleep better. No, it doesn't. It may knock you out, but you do not get restful sleep. Yawning means you are exhausted. No. How many of you have ever yawned during you're fully awake, but somebody in your class or at work yawns? It is just kind of an automatic reflex. Exercising right before bed is not going to set you up for a good night's sleep. It's actually going to amp you up. That is when your metabolism is rising. So they say actually don't exercise after you eat. Exercise before you eat. Because if you exercise, your metabolism is going fast. So when you eat, it's still burning off those calories. Everyone needs 8 hours of sleep each night. Nope. Like I told you before, you need to go through your 90-minute sleep cycle. Watching TV or tooling around on your computer just before bed will help you get into the zone. No, as I told you, those LED lights mess with the melatonin secretion. So it's good to kind of put that stuff aside for about an hour before you go to bed. You can catch up on accumulated sleep loss with 1 night of super sleep. Gosh, I wish that were true. Pressing the snooze button is a good way to catch up on a few more minutes. Absolutely not. It actually makes you more tired. Insomnia, no big deal. Everyone has trouble sleeping from time to time. And sleep aids are totally safe. Actually, sleep aids will knock you out, kind of like alcohol. It kind of just helps you kind of shut your brain off. Really, not really. But you don't get the restful sleep that you need. It messes with your REM, non-REM sleep. So why is it helpful to get on a schedule? Set the stage before sleep. Watch your eating, drinking, and smoking. Why is it helpful to move it or lose it? And the reason is so that you can get a good night's sleep. So if you get on a schedule, you set the stage before you go to bed, you watch what you eat, drink, and smoke, and you move, and you're consciously exercising, not right before bed, but you're maintaining like an everyday flow. These are all things that are going to help you get a good night's sleep. So with that, I'm going to pause this because this was a long 40 minutes, and I will pick up with dreams on the next presentation. So I will see you soon. Peace.